ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Tapped Out Wrestling Podcast. I'm Nick McDaniel. He's Myron Fancher. How the heck are you today, buddy?
I am good today. I am having some memories of the past and my history as a wrestling fan. That's a good thing. Today, I am super psyched about recording this episode. Tell us what our content is today, Mr. McDaniel.
Well, man, look, over the months and years, we get questions and they come in and I was like, but it is sporadically one. And I keep saying like, man, we need to use this. We need to use this. And I finally was like the other day, I'm like, you know what, Myron, we need to do an episode where we're going to basically pull all these specific themed questions, which I'll get to in a second, and ask them all. So we're going to go into the mailbag today, but it's basically, we're going to call it the mailbag episode, old school edition.
Yes.
So we get, just like you said, just the same question. It might be different variations of the same question from tons of different people. And so basically I just kind of pulled them all together and was like, let's just go and answer one episode. We're going to go old school. But before we go to the mailbag, we want to remind you folks, make sure you are subscribing to us. Go to our YouTube channel, like the page, subscribe, turn your notification bell on, all that good stuff so you don't miss a single episode, no matter when and where they drop. Same on our Patreon, patreon.com/tappedoutpod, because that way you don't miss a single episode. As soon as they drop, you'll know. And by the way, if you're a paying member behind the paywall, you're going to get the show early.
Oh, yeah.
So that's always a cool thing as well.
They get access to a lot of extra content. They get all kind of cool stuff.
And look, we've talked about some of the new stuff that we're looking at doing. We talked about that before we recorded.
Research,
lots
market
of
research,
stuff.
all kind of stuff.
But look, man, I'll kind of lead it off this week. You did the mailbag episode, so I'll kind of take control of the questions here. So, and again, it's always just a favorite. It's a variation of things. So I wanted to put a few rules in here, and I only say that because, so it's basically a lot of old school questions, like old school wrestling. Now, look, folks, I understand the Attitude Era for most of us is a hard memory to accept, that it's a little bit old school. So I said, look, any answers when they're asking us about old school stuff or our favorite old stuff, I was like, okay, you can't talk about, we had to put a hard line in it. So we just said 25 years ago would be 1999. So it's got to be 1999 or back. Now, we are old. I mean, really old. So, like, we were thinking 70s, 80s. By the way, to be fair, Myron, most of our answers probably will be 70s or 80s. Right?
Most of my answers will be so old, I might not even remember all the details.
Correct.
I just remember, like, impressions. You ever get that with memories where it's just like stamps, like time stamps?
Yeah. Where it's not an exact, like, you're like, it's funny because a lot of you're almost asking yourself, did that really happen?
I can tell you what angle. I can tell you what the best angle was, the angle that made the impact on me, but I'm having trouble with the matches.
Oh, exactly. So let's start with, look, the easiest one, we always get the favorite it's variation of who's your favorite wrestler from back in the day. And so I wanted to just go ahead and lead off of that because I always tell people, if you've listened to this show for any length of time, we're going to pause here and go, let you in your head go, Myron's favorite wrestler is blank. Nick's favorite wrestler of all time is blank. So it's not that hard. But for those people, look, by the way, Myron, there are new people that haven't been listening to us as long.
They haven't.
It happens.
So I'll let you lead off. My favorite wrestler of all time is Bullet Barb Armstrong. And Bullet Barb Armstrong, father of Road Dogg, father of some of the greatest wrestlers. When they say, don't, wrestling has more than one royal family, they really mean it with the Armstrongs, okay? Mm-hmm. Bullet Bob was such a character, such a great hero. And when something happened and he was ran out of town, the Bullet would come back. And nobody would acknowledge the fact that everybody knew it was Bob Armstrong. He was the Bullet. He was a masked man. And it was great. And everybody loved him. And it was so awesome as a kid. Be like, I know that's Bob Armstrong. Oh my God, that's Bob Armstrong. Nobody knows. So that was my favorite wrestler. And I think you had such positive feelings about your favorite wrestler too.
1,000%. Look, I was a Dusty Rhodes kid from I was like 3-4 years old. Like my first memories are Dusty Rhodes. So I mean, and the crazy thing about it is, I jokingly tell, and I know you're probably the same way. I tell people like, okay, this is actually factual. Nick doesn't cry when celebrities die, and it's not that I'm a cold-hearted guy. I just don't. Because I don't know them personally. I'm not attached in that sense. I cried when Dusty Rhodes passed. Like there just aren't many. Like I said, there just aren't many that have that impact on you from afar. You can be. I'm like, hey, I'm sad somebody died. I mean, obviously, but like, no, it literally brought me to tears, and it's because, like you said, there's just tons of memories as a child of Dusty this and Dusty, and I'm not going to spoil because in case you haven't figured out, some other answers along the way are probably going to involve these wrestlers that we talked about. Because they're our favorite wrestler for a reason. But like I said, it's just Dusty was, and for like my entire life, by the way, back up. The entire life I remember watching wrestling, Dusty wasn't a good guy. Dusty was the good guy.
Yeah.
In Florida and in NWA. So he was the good guy. And so that's why, and it just, by the way, let's be honest with you, short, chubby kid. Like you see Dusty wrestle, and you're like, "Oh, that could be me," and that was the allure of Dusty. That everybody looked at him and go, "I could do that." You couldn't. You didn't have the charisma that Dusty had, but you could do that.
Now, do you think some of it is regional, where we grew up at?
1,000%, yes. Okay. If you're a New York guy, you were Bruno, or you were, and so I get and understand that, but again, it's why it's our favorite. That's the importance.
You grew up in Florida. Yeah. I grew up in Alabama. Thankfully, I got to meet Bob shortly before he died. We went to that meet and greet. It was West Georgia somewhere, right?
It was in West Georgia. Yep.
Yeah. God, the weird things we've gone to in West Georgia that have been so cool, but I don't remember a lot about them except meeting Bob Armstrong. Been some crazy stuff in West Georgia.
It was 1,000 degrees in that building. That's what I remember about that day.
Yeah, heat doesn't work out well.
It does not.
It does not.
No.
I'll sweat my big fat hog ass off, but you just do not care for it.
Not in the least.
Okay.
So let's go to part 2.
Territorial. Go for it.
Your favorite old school promotion / territory. So this one will surprise you because I lived in Florida till I was 13. Lived in Georgia from 13 on. However, as crazy as it sounds, my favorite, this is hard because I'm torn between two. There's two specifically that I'm torn between. And I would love to know everybody's answer, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. What's your favorite territory promotion? Old school. And again, we're going to go 99 back. If you're doing an old school promotion in territory, you're going a little further back than that, just so you're aware. World Class out of Texas and Mid-South, or, those were the two that I'm struggling with picking from. I was just going to go World Class because when they were at their hottest, World Class was like chaotic chaos before, anything else. You could make the case for Memphis as well, but I'm going to completely stick. My answer is going to be World Class. I think was probably my favorite promotion. Like it's territory back in the day.
That's one I never got exposed to as a kid because I got limited TV where I was at, but always heard such great stuff about it and would have loved to have seen that. Who did you watch? Who were the guys you watched?
So obviously the Von Erichs were they were the top guys. They were the top tier baby faces that because Dad owned the promotion, so they're going to be the top guys because they're not going anywhere. The Freebirds, like they were the heels. Chris Adams and Gino Hernandez were a heel run.
Oh wow, yeah.
I do agree with Bruce. By the way, there is always one that when they always ask like, who did we never get to see on a national stage that would have been money on a national stage? Gino Hernandez was definitely one of those guys that would have been, because he was just an absolute heel through and through, 1,000%. So that's kind of, and of course, you had Midnight's had a pass through, so there were always that's the thing. But everybody, it's kind of hard, especially if you're a younger audience member listening and you haven't gone back and really dug into the territory stuff. Back in the day, it was like, people moved from one place to the next, so you kind of could see everybody over time. It might be years that that you're seeing guys come through. Undertaker, Big Red with a mask, Bruiser Brody, Abdullah, blah blah blah. So Devastation Incorporated, with Sheikah Adnan al-Qais, so anyway, Skandar Akbar, Jesus, wrong name, sorry, wrong one. But so anyway, the Missing Link, on and on and on. But that's kind of why. That's why.
Did Lord Humongous come through?
I don't remember him coming through. I'm not saying he didn't. I'm old. I'm 50. But
that was one of my favorites, man.
Yeah.
That was one of my favorites and this took me forever to figure out because I grew up. It was called Southeastern, and then everybody's like Continental. So I had to go back and trace through the legacy of my favorite promotion. So at the time I watched it, it was Southeastern. Ownership changed back between Ron Fuller and some of how that goes with wrestling promotions. But what I watched was Ron Fuller's Southeastern Championship Wrestling it was on TV in Birmingham, right outside of where I grew up. And it was most excellent. It was Bob, Ron Fuller, Robert Fuller, Tom Pritchard, that group. The Lord Humongous was the heel, man. That was so great.
And it evolved into Continental, probably like when Tom came in and all that. That's kind of, you started evolving into Continental, and stuff. Great promotion. It can't be argued. So
I loved it.
Oh yeah. This one's a harder one. Favorite match is tough. I mean, it really is. I'll let you start.
You'll let me start.
Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. This is like a timestamp match for me. And this match happened twice, but I saw the second match first. Because I saw it on VHS. Because I rented it, and I rented WrestleMania 3 before I rented WrestleMania 1. I don't remember if the VHS cassettes had already been rented first, but it was Hogan Andre. And that's not anything to do with the match. It's about the fact that the match made an impression on me, that I still remember the VHS box cover. I still remember renting it to get to see that match. The match itself, don't remember that much about. I remember wanting to rent the VHS tape to see Hogan and Andre. That's what I remember about it. The hype. The first real hype for me was that. So, yeah.
And Southeastern, born and bred, obviously. Mine is Starrcade Flair versus Race in the cage.
Oh my God!
So, and I only say that because it's kind of very similar to what you were saying. To me, that is a timestamp of when I even as a little kid, I felt wrestling changing. It went from all of our, Harley Race and the old, we at our age at 50, we've experienced wrestling evolving over the years. And I think there are moments where we always kind of feel like that's where it was slow, but we felt like for our brains, that's when it clicked. Like, okay, we're moving into the next phase. Flair, essentially, in my opinion, the night he beat Race for the champions for the NWA title, that's when he became the man. So that's why that match to me, and it's like that began the generation of Flair on his run. And so that's why that match stands out for me, because I was at that age of when it was like click, it was moving into another phase. Now, granted, that phase has come and gone, right? But it's still, to me, like a measuring. And it was also, by the way, one of the first mega events. Like, it was the first thing that felt big. And when it wasn't just a big show they ran in a town. Like the Bash, even Great American Bash at times was town to town to town to town to town to town. Starrcade became like it wasn't. You know what I mean? It's kind of hard to explain. Like it was the first huge national event for me. I'm not saying it was. I'm saying for me because of where we live. That's why that match stands out. So,
sorry, I'm doing a lot of reflecting on this whole listening and thinking about this. It feels like we've kind of watched more. If wrestling was, remember, the evolutionary chart where it goes from monkey all the way up to man at the end. We've witnessed a huge portion of wrestling's evolution.
Just 45 years probably.
Yeah.
Because that's if our measuring stick was 5, which I knew ours was before that. But and look, there are times, Myron, because we're old, we don't quite have the energy we used to have.
I get slowed down some days so bad.
So if you're looking for a good way to kind of boost that energy up a little bit, check out our friends over at Dubby. That is right, Dubby.gg. Check them out, man. Look, they've been around since 2021, but what we love about them, they're partnering with people like us, streamers, content creators, gamers. Hey, by the way, if you're a gamer, great one to get boost through those long nights of, well, I don't know what the kids are playing now because I'm still playing Fallout and I'm still playing games like that. So, and man, those games you can just dive into for hours, and sometimes you need that little extra boost. Dubby.gg. 0 sugars, no artificial colors or dyes, no secret formulas, no hidden ingredients, gluten-free, by the way. And what's cool about it, you're sitting here looking, if you're watching the screen, if you're watching this on YouTube, Dragonade. You're like, what flavor is Dragonade? Well, that's because all of their flavors are unique and custom made just for them. So it's not going to taste the same as this other stuff that you're buying out there as well. And by the way, if you're out here buying these cans at the convenience stores or you're going to Starbucks and trying to get a little energy boost, what are you paying for those things? Those things are expensive. If you get do the powder, man, from Dubby, you're averaging about $1 a drink, maybe a little more when you're making it yourself. And by the way, folks, it's made right here in the USA. So that's another big thing that we love about Dubby. And go over to Dubby.gg. Again, Dubby.gg, and use the promo code TappedOutPod and save up to 10% on your next order.
It's better than those competitors, man. I went in the store the other day and bought a bottle of something, and flavor was Dragon D's.
Yeah, exactly.
It was horrible. But you ever played Skyrim, Nick?
No, that's one that everybody tells me I need to download and play that.
If you like Fallout that much, you need to get to Skyrim. Yeah. But let's go to the next one. Let's go to the next one.
So, favorite feud. Again, remember, guys, we're talking early, like old school stuff early, and I'll let you go first on this one as well.
Feud. This is the one that struck me. I'd like to talk to Tom. When a dirty white girl comes out, I believe it was Charlie Pratt. I'd like to talk to Tom. And she's got a black eye. And Tom Pritchard comes out. He's trying to like get away from her, and she's like, Tom. And then the dirty white boy comes out, and they ambush him, and he takes him down to the ring, and he hangs him. And I actually got to talk to Tom Pritchard about this, and he hung him. He damn near actually killed him for this angle. And you could tell if you ever watch this, if you go back and watch this, the emotion is so strong that he sold. I mean, he didn't really have to sell, almost dying. The black eye on Dirty White Girl. I met Dirty White Boy too. I got pictures of him. So Mark. Myron just went, Mark. I drug him down and hung him, and he almost died for the art of professional wrestling. Now, that was a feud.
Now, let me ask you, are these feuds back in the day, are they so amplified in our memories because it's still real to me, damn it?
Oh, it was real as hell back then.
I agree.
Oh, my God.
Listen,
was real.
Even the most outlandish feuds, because mine will always bolt in. Most people attach Dusty to Rick as their favorite feud. That is not mine. Mine has always been Dusty versus Kevin Sullivan. This was like a Florida thing. They would, this was Kevin Sullivan, his peak, satanic.
He had terrifying
the fallen angel. And by the way, shout outs, prayers go to Kevin Sullivan. I know he's got some health issues. By the way, look, okay, let's full disclosure here. I gotta put this in here because I know this is gonna spoil some of the magic behind production, but I just feel like we recorded this. Kevin's going through some serious health issues. This episode's not going to drop for literally 9 days from now. So if you're listening to this, yes, we recorded this ahead for some reasons why. If you've listened to any of our podcasts, you may know why we recorded so far ahead on this episode. Vacation. But anyway, the reason I want to disclose this, Kevin's facing some health issues, and God forbid anything happens to Kevin between the time we record this and it releases. I don't want people to think we're being insensitive to the Kevin situation. So I want to be full disclosure. I didn't think about that before I started talking about it. I just want to make sure, like, everybody is aware. Kevin had, nothing, he's having health issues at the time of we recorded. So, and we wish him nothing but the best. We hope, he bounces back, and we hope he does well. So, I just wanted to make sure. Sorry. I know that sounds maybe a little much. I absolutely want to make sure.
Perfectly understandable.
God forbid something happened to him between now and then. I would feel horrible if it aired and we were talking about it like he was, having health issues and he had passed or something like that. God forbid that happens.
I met him at WrestleCade and I got his autograph and I told him, my God, you scared the hell out of me as a kid, because he was around that was during that whole satanic panic thing in the 80s where everybody thought you were going to hell. You were going to hell.
Absolutely.
The devil's around every corner.
He had the purple haze with him. He had, fallen angel with him. He was, he had a bunch of people were with him, and he had this cult-like thing. But it was the great stories because it was like him and Dusty feuded through Florida forever, it felt like. He would beat Dusty. Dusty had to leave town. The Midnight Rider shows up. Then he went, then Dusty's back, and then Kevin Sullivan loses, and then a masked guy named Lucifer showed up, and it's like, so like they went back and forth, and they just drug this thing out for years, and it was just, again, it was because it was real for me at the time. I was a little kid. That's why it's amplified, and it's still, to me, one of my favorite, and I had the pleasure of meeting Kevin, I believe it was at WrestleCade, and he talked to me about comic books of all things. Because he's a big comic book guy too, so it was like that's the cool thing. Like the guy that at one point that I thought was the devil incarnate, as a little kid, literally was a nice guy. And so again, nothing but love and respect to Kevin.
Got to recommend WrestleCade, folks.
Yeah,
if you get a chance to go, you got to go and meet all your heroes.
Yeah,
that's the best thing I can say about it, man. Whew.
So that'll bring us up to our favorite venue. Now, here's the thing. This one was tricky for me. It's like, favorite venue I've ever physically been in and seen a show at, or favorite venue, and sometimes because I went with one that I always wished I would have gotten to see a show in, but I did not. So I never actually physically been there, nor will I ever be able to for a bunch of reasons you're going to find out. But what was yours?
Mine was the first place I went to see live wrestling. It was the first place I have this memory of going through the front doors. It's not a lobby, it's the section between doors, and it was all nice and beautiful, and I still remember what it looked like and being so impressed with how it looked as a kid. I was probably 10 or 11. It was Boutwell Auditorium, and just hearing about Boutwell Auditorium every week on the Southeastern Show. This on Boutwell Auditorium, because it was a Monday or two. I think it was a Monday night show, and this Monday at Boutwell Auditorium, and they talk about it on TV. They hype this place up. So when I got to go, I was like, I don't even know if the place sucked or not. I don't remember anything about the details of it except walking into it and thinking it was the most wonderful place on earth. Because I was going to see live wrestling at the place they talked about on TV all the time. I saw wrestling there twice. And I have these memories of a magical place. And that's all that matters to me.
That's what makes it your favorite.
Yeah.
100,000%.
And your place
is a place I never physically got to go into. And here's the thing, by the way, the nostalgia of it makes it was one of my favorite venues to watch in. But people that have actually been in that building have told me, like, you're lucky you never did, because it was 1,000 degrees in that building at times in the summer. And that's the Sportatorium. We talk about, world class being one of my favorite promotions, and I always wanted to go out there and I wanted to see a show in the Sportatorium. It looked awesome, in my opinion, on TV. They didn't have guardrails. They had that little rope, essentially, is all they had for barricades and stuff. Remember back in the day, Myron, they didn't even have that at one point. They were just like, no, there's just seats, and then there's the ring. It's kind of like going to an indie show now. But so I always wanted to see a show at the Sportatorium. Never got to go. Obviously, lived too far away, etc. But I always thought it just looked so cool, and just the chaotic crowds in that building. I always thought, like, dude, that would be so much fun to go see, a show at the Sportatorium. So didn't happen. Can't happen now, obviously, for all the reasons. It's, kind of not, they don't do stuff there anymore, but it sucks.
I don't even think it exists anymore.
Yeah, it sucks. It sucks, but it's always one that I wanted to see. So, if we're making you feel nostalgic and you're like, hey, man, I'd love to talk about this kind of stuff. Well, dude, what do we always tell them, Myron?
Go to Libsyn. Start your own podcast.
Absolutely. Go over to Libsyn.com. That is right, Libsyn.com. Use the promo code TAPPED, as you see right there on the screen. Sign up today and get up to 2 months for free. Start your own podcast. Why do we recommend Libsyn? Because, look, I'd love to tell you they're the only one we ever used, but it's the only one that I would endorse. We used another one for a cup of coffee and absolutely realized Libsyn.com, hands down, is the best. Distributes to all the platforms out there. By the way, they've even added over the last couple months YouTube distribution as well. So Libsyn.com, go over there and use the promo code TAPPED and get up to 2 months for free.
Yep. That's our secret weapon, man. People keep asking me, where are y'all at? Everywhere. What do you mean? Oh, we're everywhere.
Yeah.
Because you put that thing into Libsyn,
it sends it everywhere. And I mean,
cast you into the wind.
Yep.
Beautiful.
So next up, this one's going to be tough. And I'll explain why, because I said probably an unnecessary rule on here that's going to make it tough. Favorite commentary team, but it had to be prior to, because Raw and Nitro were on after our window. So I'm like, okay, it can't be, so it can't be like the King and Jim Ross. It can't be a Nitro team. So it's got to be some commentary team prior.
I don't remember a Nitro team I really like that much.
No, I mean, that's
and
there were incarnations. There was like Zbyszko and Shivani, and then there was Heenan, Shivani, Tenay. So like there were different. Eric Bischoff was on. Remember, there was Eric Bischoff and Tenay. And so there were different incarnations of there. But it's also, by the way, why that was part 2 of why I was like, all right, we got to go prior. Like I wanted teams to, yeah.
It's not going to be Booker T from NXT, so I'm not even going to.
Well, he's after the window, so that makes it easy.
I know that makes it a lot easier because.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, what you got, Nick? What's your team?
Mine is I don't know if a lot of people argue this is the best. By the way, okay, let me go ahead. Mine is Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon.
Oh.
From the old WWF. Now, some people
picking at each other.
The way they just had so much fun together, and you could tell that they were going after each other. I think that's what probably made it, and they were just hands down my favorite combination. But think about it this way. Gorilla was good with Jesse.
Yeah.
So that was a good team. But I always fall back to Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon. And by the way, it wasn't like something that I quote unquote like grew up on. Because when I grew up in Florida, we ready for this, folks? We're used to 3 4-man booths now. I grew up in Florida, one guy. Gordon Soley sitting behind a desk by himself.
Oh, hell yeah.
We didn't have a commentary team. We had now.
Because that's what I was going to be my choice. Because that's all you needed was Gordon Soley. Yeah. And I don't even know if Gordon Soley was there. Okay? I don't even know if Gordon Soley was in the building. He was probably in Florida calling the Alabama shows off tape.
Well, no, he would be standing behind that podium. Remember, he was standing off to the side. He would be there.
At that show?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
He was probably had a cocktail and talking about the solar plexus. The solar. I thought I was cool at school because I knew a part of the body nobody else knew about. The solar plexus. Man, yeah. Gordon had it. That's all you needed was Gordon Solie. You didn't need a team. You didn't need Wade Barrett. You didn't need all these people. One man, Gordon Solie. You got Charlie Pratt later on, but Gordon Solie, man,
yeah,
he could do it all. He could bring people over and talk to them.
Yeah, that's to me like it's hard. Like this is the evolution part we've discussed a couple times up to this point. By the way, we'd love to know. This is one I would love to know people because this is probably one of the ones that you'll get. I think you're either going to get a lot of the same or you're going to get a variation. This one, by the way, also is very geographical. If you grew up with Dave Brown and Lance Russell in Memphis, like that's your favorite.
Yeah.
It happens. Like, me personally, I just don't know how I didn't fall that way. Like Gordon is my favorite, like was my favorite forever. But when I thought commentary team was kind of unfortunately where my brain went. So that's kind of why I went, Bobby and Gorilla. And I wasn't exposed to them until like I was 13. Like it was afterwards. And they just came, but hands down, let us know what's your thoughts. Who's your favorite commentary team? tappedoutpod@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm.
Which brings us to our last one.
Yep.
This one's going to be all over the place. Favorite tag team of all time prior to 99. I'll let you start with this one.
First autograph I ever got, U.S. Express. Mike Rotundo right there. Got his autograph at the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center. The only time I went to go see you. WWF as a child. Him and Barry Windham. I liked him a lot watching him. Getting to interact with him. Walk up and just get his autograph. He was like they were watching from like not the corner or backstage. They were watching from about like the side of the venue. And I went up as a small kid and got their autograph or his autograph. I didn't get Barry's. I don't remember the details on a program. I don't have it still, unfortunately, but that was my experience. I love them as a tag team. There were a lot of other great tag teams. There were a lot of other great tag teams, but those are the ones I remember being a fan of first. So that was my favorite tag team.
Great choice. Saw both of those guys break into the business in Florida, which was awesome. But I just think, look, this is debatable, the greatest tag team of all times, right? That's become a thing. But my favorite of all time is I just remember the first time I saw the Road Warriors hit the ring. And it was absolute chaos and destruction. I remember thinking, what's going on? Like, it was always funny. It was like one of the first ass whippings to a soundtrack. Because the music would keep playing and they would hit the ring and they just were beating the heck out of somebody. And I was always like, that's just crazy. Like they're just, even by then had I gotten a little bit like in the know, like knowing like, are they one of the first groups that made you go, I know this isn't real, but they just beat the crap out of those guys.
It looked real to me.
That looked real. Like everything was, and that that's some of our favorite stuff, right? All that other stuff, I understand. Yeah. But that right there, that's real. By the way, it's probably because they were kicking the crap out of those guys. It's the problem.
Yeah. I mean, how many other tag teams did they father out of that bunch? How many people just wound up imitating them? They're probably one of the most prolific tag teams of all time. That whole genre. I mean, the Road Warrior genre from the Mad Max movies. That whole thing, that was insane at the time. Oh man, God, that was the nuts time and that science fiction apocalyptic thing.
Lots of cool stuff. But, man, look, we would love to get more of some of these type of questions, and we could do one of these more often. tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Make sure you're sending them over, man. And, you know, I would love to do some more old school stuff.
Yeah, a lot of fun.
We like modern stuff, we do, but like the old school stuff is, you know, just kind of a little bit different. Maybe we can do some more old school stuff over on our YouTube channel, youtube.com. The handle is @tappedoutpod. Of course, you know, like the page, subscribe to the page, turn that little bell on. So if we do any more of this old school stuff, you'll find it. It'll come up on there for you. Patreon.com as well, /tappedoutpod. Sign up, become a member, get the show early, get them, you know, a lot of that exclusive content. Obviously, we're never, like I always joke about leaving these podcast platforms, but I constantly get messages about don't do it. I had one literally a couple days ago tell me the same thing. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartMedia, anywhere and everywhere there's a podcast platform. We're there for you because, look, I know some people just like the audio, man. Some people just can't handle all the sexiness on their screen. Stuff happens, and we understand that. So we will probably
there are filters you could put over the screen, like paint, that will cut the sexiness down.
So, look, this episode's a little shorter because, again, the mailbag episode, you know, we did it. So next week we will be back with our regularly scheduled program.
Yes.
You know, again, if you have any questions, comments, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Patreon members can message us on Patreon. YouTube, you know, look, shoot us an email. We're looking to do some new content, different types of content. What would you guys like to hear? What would you like to see? And, you know, so down the road we can make a little, you know, we want to make this for you guys, for what you're looking for, and make that, you know, look, is it interviews you want? Is it, you know, covering specific things we're not covering yet? Not covering things we currently cover, whatever that may be, let us know, tappedoutpod@gmail.com. Well, man, I had a blast doing this one.
That was a lot of fun. Love hearing from people. Heard from Adam last week, Adam Vance, a friend of ours that listened to the show. That was so cool knowing friends are listening. I always love hearing from people like that. Keep up listening. Keep up sending us stuff in, folks. I really appreciate that. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and hit us up Facebook Messenger, right?
Yep,
we're always available. Always available, man. Well, man, if that's all you've got today, man, what's the old saying, brother? If I've got nothing and you've got nothing, what time is it?
It's time to tap out.